Hey guys, welcome back to Notes from the Progressive Revolution. I'm here with my buddy Danny Abrahms right here. He's my friend and a concerned citizen, and we're going to be talking about right now, just honestly, like why progressives are not excited about Joe Biden, okay? So for me personally, oh wait, yeah. Okay, so for me personally, the reasons that I was excited about Joe Biden, I mean, Bernie Sanders, LOL. See,
Yeah.
that's what this is me like trying, like again, I've had so many people all week like shitting on me for not being excited about Joe Biden. So like that's the Freudian slip of like me trying to be excited about Joe Biden. So the reason that I was excited about Bernie Sanders in the first place and that I went out there canvassing for him and that I gave money to him and I supported him and all that is because he uniquely among all the candidates supports a bunch of policies that will help my life and America at large. Medicare for all, okay? Green New Deal, living wage, universal housing, cancellation of student debt and free college, criminal justice reform, and like a bunch of other issues, okay? Joe Biden doesn't support any of those issues, okay? And yes, Joe Biden is not Donald Trump, but what Joe Biden stands for doesn't inspire me, okay? I am not inspired. None of the things in his platform are going to help my life in particular. So I'm not inspired to get out there and go canvassing for him and advocate for him day and night, day and night, day and night. Will I vote for him? Yeah, voting in my part of town is not that hard. I've never had to wait that long in line. I can just go and vote and come back. And so, yes, will I vote for Joe Biden because he's not Donald Trump? And I just feel like Joe Biden is going to be better than Donald Trump because at least Joe Biden will fill his administration with corrupt people that are competent as opposed to Donald Trump, who will fill it with corrupt people that are incompetent. Yeah, Joe Biden is very minorly the lesser of the two evils, okay? But if you're a Joe Biden supporter, okay, and you didn't support Bernie Sanders in the primary and never supported Bernie Sanders, and your biggest issue, and you were like a vote blue no matter who guy, and your biggest issue was always just getting rid of Donald Trump, if that's the thing that really inspires you, then Joe Biden is your candidate, and you should go out there and canvass for him. You better go out there and, advocate on his behalf. Let us know how, why just how much he's going to be the guy that can oust Donald Trump. I mean, I also don't even believe that he can oust Donald Trump, just looking at, again, what he stands for and his track record and the way he did in the primary, where he could only end up winning the primary when every single other candidate dropped out and got behind him. And remember, the entire primaries before South Carolina, no one was even talking about Joe Biden. He placed fourth and fifth in Iowa and New Hampshire. Like, that's an embarrassment. He was the vice president of America and had just the most pathetic performance in the primaries before South Carolina. And also, the dude can't put a sentence together, man. Like, I have seen videos of him on mainstream media trying to do interviews, and it's truly embarrassing. Like, he can't get through a sentence, and then he'll get embarrassed, and then the news people will get embarrassed. And this is just not the guy that I believe can beat Donald Trump. Now, if you believe that, great, fight for him. If your main issue is defeating Donald Trump, get out there and fight for him. I'll vote for Joe Biden, but I'm not going to get out there and canvass for him, and try to convince me why he is that guy. I mean, like when Bernie Sanders was in the race, me and all the people that were supporting Bernie, we were canvassing, we were posting about, we were so inspired to post defending Bernie Sanders, post about his policies, why they would help us. We were truly inspired by him. And so just like understand on like a practical level why we're not inspired, why shaming us isn't going to inspire us to vote for him, and also understand that a lot of the people voting for Bernie Sanders are people who Joe Biden's policies are not going to help. Like, understand that a lot of people that voted for Bernie are people who, the ACA didn't help, because what did the Affordable Care Act do? It ensured that every American had to pay for insurance. And there's a bunch of people who could never afford insurance. So then forcing everybody to pay for health insurance that doesn't help a large swath of the population who couldn't afford healthcare in the first place. Okay, so that's a group of people who wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders because they need free healthcare. Understand, there's a lot of people who were students who were affected by the bankruptcy bill that Joe Biden passed that made it impossible to delete your file bankruptcy on your student loans. Okay, and Joe Biden even still says that he's not going to cancel all student loans. So understand, those people that were voting for Bernie Sanders, they're not interested in voting for Joe Biden because in terms of healthcare, neither Joe Biden's going to help them and Trump isn't going to help them. Okay, so they're not feeling particularly moved to vote for Joe Biden. I mean, I could go on and on, but I just wanted to. I'm not trying to be angry at anyone. I'm not trying to attack anyone. I'm just saying, on like a practical level, these are reasons why we're not excited about him. Okay, and I'll vote for Joe Biden. I am lucky and privileged that it's easy for me to vote, but there's a lot of people in lower income areas that have been it's been made more difficult for them to vote, who are suffering under the wealth equality of America that Joe Biden helped exacerbate. Yes, Trump is also exacerbating, but Joe Biden was always a huge part of that as well. And they're not going to want to spend 6 hours in line to vote for a guy who isn't going to help them in any real way. Okay, like, these are the votes you're shaming people. These are the people who aren't voting that you're shaming. People, and these are the people that you're calling privileged, the people that Joe Biden has never helped. Understand, the people that Joe Biden has never helped are the people that are suffering most from wealth inequality right now. And you're going to and the narrative going around that people not voting for Joe Biden are privileged. Understand that, like, I have the privilege of living in an area where it's easy for me to vote, and I will vote for Joe Biden. Okay, like, it's not privilege that's making people not want to vote for Joe Biden. Okay, it's just fundamentally he doesn't speak to us, and he said many times that he has no empathy for young people either. Like, he said that he has no empathy for young people. Okay, millennials, it's been documented that we don't have nearly as much wealth as the boomers had, of course, but even Gen X right before us, they have so much more wealth than we have. I don't have the exact numbers, crucify me, but it is the truth. We have almost none. And I forgot what I was saying there. He said he has no empathy for millennials, and almost one of the biggest patterns during the primary when Biden was running his campaign was him just anytime he was asked a question by any voter, he would just tell them to vote for Donald Trump. So it's like, pundits are saying that people that aren't voting for Joe Biden, that's basically a vote for Donald Trump. Well, Joe Biden has told us that if we don't agree with him, we should vote for Donald Trump. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? And like, the people that voted for Bernie Sanders, most people that voted for him work at Amazon, work at Starbucks, work at the post office. Like, these are working class people that you're not going to get them to vote for Joe Biden by shaming them, by telling them to vote for Trump and gaslighting them. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just trying to explain where Bernie supporters are coming from. What do you think about that, Danny?
All right, so I think there's two different debates. One is like, will the Bernie base vote for Joe Biden? And then the second question is, will the Bernie base actually canvass and phone bank and donate and do everything they can to get him elected? I'm in the camp for the first thing, for voting, where we should, because I believe every person should vote if they're capable of doing so, because unless one of them gets sick or dies, Biden or Trump will become our next president, and I'd rather have Biden than Trump. That's just the reality of our options right now.
Me too.
Right. But as far as the other stuff, which is actually probably required in order to actually get him elected, because this is not going to be an easy fight by any stretch, and I hope Democrats don't think it will be easy, because it won't. Mm-hmm. That all that other campaigning hard work is going to be required to win, and I don't think that it's fair for Biden supporters to dump that on Bernie supporters to put in all that legwork for somebody that we're not genuinely excited or inspired to vote to see elected.
Yeah, like,
so.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I just hope and I say this sincerely, I really hope they are willing to put in the legwork that we would have if Bernie was the nominee.
Yeah, and it's not even like we're saying like, oh, we don't want to, like it's not our candidate, so we're not going to put in the legwork. Like, understand what happens. We put in like 2 years of canvassing and donating money and defending him when the media would talk shit about him in their BS narratives, and standing up for him and showing up to rallies because of this because of these ideas, because we truly believe that we could get an America that worked for us. Then the Democratic Party staged this, like everybody dropping out and getting behind Joe Biden, and the media just coronated Joe Biden then and there, 24/7 coverage of just Joe Biden is the guy, Joe Biden is the guy, Bernie Sanders isn't elected. Americans went and voted for Joe Biden, but the exit polls even show that Americans, even the states that voted for Joe Biden, want Medicare for all and a Green New Deal. So like the Democratic Party coalesced in a way that they never have before, putting all their power behind stopping Bernie Sanders' agenda to make sure that none of those things ever get passed. And Joe Biden doesn't stand for any of those things. So then how are you going to tell us that all the work that you put in for these ideas, now you have to put this work in for a guy that will never do these ideas?
Right.
If your biggest idea that what made you inspired to go out and vote is getting Trump out, then great. Joe Biden, if you believe that he can do that, get out there and canvass, man. Like, understand, we went out there and canvassed for Bernie with everybody telling us that it was impossible for Bernie to get elected. We did that even though we didn't know that it was a sure thing. And honestly, the odds are, especially because of institutional corruption, that Bernie would never get elected. And we saw what happened in the primaries. Even when Bernie was winning, when Bernie won the first 3 states, the media started this narrative going like, well, if he doesn't get a majority of the delegates, which in the primaries alone, which no candidate has in modern history, like it's everybody goes to the, people have the most delegates, and then usually the person with the most delegates gets the nomination. But people were starting to say, even if he gets the most delegates, if he doesn't get a majority, super delegates and the party can choose whoever they want. But like, there is this one guy on MSNBC who was like, well, the party at the end of the day, it's the party's primary. They get to choose their candidate. So they were even going to fuck Bernie out of the nomination, even if we won the delegate count. But so we did this for a cause that we believed in. We'll still vote for Joe, but if you're like, if the movement that you stopped, if you stopped our movement because you believe in yours more, great, prove it to us. Go make it happen. We'll help. We'll vote for him in a way that I don't even know if centrist Democrats would have. Like, I don't think centrist Democrats would have ever voted for Bernie if he won the nomination. Like I don't think they would have helped us out if we got him to win the nomination.
No, I think it would have been our responsibility to carry the mantle until Bernie won the general election if he was nominated.
Exactly.
I do not expect them to canvass for Bernie. They would have been our responsibility. But by the same token, it's now your responsibility to get Joe Biden elected. I mean, unless Joe Biden changes his policies or changes his messaging to genuinely excite us to the point where we're willing to put in that legwork like that we would have for Bernie, then it is on the people who believed Joe Biden was the candidate to win and defeat Trump to make that actually happen.
Right. And I hope that centrist Dems don't think that they aren't going to have to put in the legwork to get Joe Biden over the finish line. Like, I hope that they don't think that like all they need from us is like all they need to do to get Biden to win is to shame millions of progressives into voting. What would also be way easier than shaming millions of people into voting for Joe Biden, who is a candidate that represents none of their values, is if Joe Biden spoke to their values. You could shame millions of people for 9 months, for however many months until the election. Or one person, Joe Biden, could say, yeah, you know what, I support Medicare for all. Like, I mean, at this point, honestly, if Joe Biden said that he supported Medicare for all, it would be, I don't know if he would even believe him, because another reason that Bernie was able to get people to put in so much work for his campaign is that we fundamentally believed him, because he has a record of standing by his beliefs and we knew we could trust him. But like, Americans are so disillusioned and so battered by our system and our government that like we don't believe in the electoral process anymore. You know, like if you're gonna make us go out there and do more work on top of the work that we all have to do in our daily lives anyways just to survive, like you gotta make us trust you, and Joe Biden doesn't have that.
Mhm.
So
I mean, so the one thing I will say in Joe Biden's defense, I guess,
oh
is,
wow, hot take.
well,
Okay,
all right, listen. So
defending Biden. Okay. Oh, and by
look
the
at,
way, all of this is, I mean, and like again, I haven't even brought up that Joe Biden is likely a rapist. You know, I mean, we
yeah,
already know that he doesn't know how to touch people and he doesn't have an understanding of personal space just from what we've seen documented in video footage. Now, like the just from years of him like being creepy Uncle Joe, like touching little kids, touching women, leaning in too close. Even the way he talks to voters, he gets right up in their face and like points, touches their like chest. It's like, you don't understand that people, you don't just get to touch people, okay? You don't just get to touch people. And like the
yes,
Tara Reid thing is still an allegation, but like just like again, you're gonna get try to get millions of women that voted for Bernie because of he's one of the greatest fighters for women's rights in modern congressional history, and you're just gonna tell us that we have to vote for this rapist? Like, I
yeah.
mean, that's another.
Let me rephrase in Joe Biden's defense. That's
Yeah,
not
no,
really
wait,
what I
yeah,
meant.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What I meant is, I believe he's in a difficult position as a political candidate to win. Especially, I think this is probably true for Democrats in general, because the Republican Party is a lot more homogeneous. It's
Hmm.
basically white conservatives, and that's the Republican Party, whereas the Democratic Party is a lot has a much more diverse base, so it's harder to appeal to everybody. Um, so he chose a message in the primaries that apparently was a winning message for the primaries, which was, we are going to restore decency. We're going to go back to the way things were before Trump. We're going to defeat Trump. And apparently that was a winning message for the primaries, but I really don't think it's going to be a winning message for the general election, because the reason Trump got elected in the first place was because people weren't satisfied with the status quo
Right. But
for
also,
Trump.
I don't think Joe Biden won the primaries based on the strength of his message. Like, he won the primaries because in South Carolina, he got the
Right.
Clyburn endorsement, and there's like in South Carolina there's like the huge support still for Obama, people not understanding that like Joe Biden is not Obama. Joe Biden was always just like the conservative that they paired Obama with, so that like conservative Democrats wouldn't be too nervous to vote for like a progressive Obama.
Right.
And it's just proof that media propaganda has worked. And there's also rampant voter suppression in South
I
Carolina,
mean,
and Biden won South Carolina, and then the media was like, "Oh, this is it. This means that Joe Biden is now." Bernie won the first 3 states in a row. Biden won South Carolina, and then the media was like, "Yep, it's Joe Biden." And then everybody coalesced. Everybody dropped out, coalesced behind Biden and then a media just covered Biden, then who won Super Tuesday, and it was just like again, just like them refusing to take Bernie Sanders seriously, and like the rest of America who watches mainstream news and trusts that believed them. They're terrified. They don't want Trump to win either. So they heard the media just talking about it was not the
like,
strength of Biden's message. I mean, I can't even remember Biden at any point giving a speech about his message that I even watched. He
well, I
can't.
mean, I just know from the debates that he was basically like, we got to restore decency. We got to go back. We got to, defeat Donald Trump. That was basically his message. And the media definitely helped perpetuate the message that, yes, the safe, milquetoast, centrist, moderate candidate is the one who's the most likely to beat Trump, even though Hillary lost, John Kerry lost, Al Gore lost. The only Democrat who's won the presidency in the last 20 years was the guy who pretended to be a progressive.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but let's go with it. Let's keep going with the narrative that the milquetoast centrist is this in a safe choice is the most electable. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
again, that seemed to be a winning message within the Democratic Party. Will it win in the general? I'm very skeptical, and I did see that study that enthusiasm for Biden within the Democratic base was like at 24%.
Low, even
Yeah,
among the Democrats that
right.
support him. They're not
Compared to Trump,
enthusiastic.
who still has over 50% like very enthusiastic. So again, we need enthusiasm in Biden's base, and that's what I'm saying is maybe now's the time. Now that he has the primary nomination, maybe now's the time to change the messaging a little bit and start revealing more of his bold progressive policies
Yeah.
that can actually excite people, both progressives, but also independents, non-voters, I guess even never Trumpers, but like now's the time to excite people.
I know.
So
It's still going to be hard to take him seriously, even if he does start speaking progressive values because of who he's being funded by. Like he's being funded by big pharma and credit card companies and fossil fuel companies. And so it's just like, and I mean, and we know you just like follow the money, like who are they being paid for by? And that's who they're serving, they're donors.
I know for a fact that he will never be as progressive as Bernie, and he won't be able to convince anybody that he is. But if you go to Joe Biden's website, which I did out of sheer curiosity,
Oh
and look
yeah.
at some of his policies and platform positions, it's better. It's like it's not
Yeah, right.
great.
Right. It's better than Trump.
It's better than Trump. So like at the very least, like push it, sell that. Like you need to sell it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's going to be the challenge. And that's his responsibility. That's his campaign's responsibility, and that's his supporters' responsibility.
Again, it is on Joe Biden and Joe Biden's supporters
Yeah.
to convince us.
Yeah.
Okay.
To convince us, to convince independents, to convince people who voted for Trump in 2016 to switch sides.
And not even us. I will vote for Joe Biden. Okay. I will do it. You got a lot of other Bernie supporters that you have to that you got to convince to come out of their houses and vote for Joe Biden. Okay. Yeah. I wish you the best of luck, because I honestly couldn't tell a lot of the Bernie supporters that Joe Biden would actually make a difference in their lives.
What I said at the beginning, I still think is true, which is I believe everybody should vote. And given the two options, I think there is a better candidate of the two.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still going to be a huge, yes, we won't be able to convince every Bernie person. Not every Bernie person shares that sentiment. And I don't know if they can be convinced, but that's a little bit of a challenge. But I'm mostly concerned with people who voted for Trump in 2016, the independents and, I guess moderate Republicans.
Yeah.
To make a case that Biden's worth voting for. People in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, the working class people there. Can we convince them, the people who thought that Trump was going to be their savior and he wasn't, can we sufficiently convince them that Biden will make their lives better?
Mm-hmm.
To be determined. I mean, that's the work.
DVD.